have no idea. Welcome to Realm Painters. In today's video, I'll be painting Stormcast Eternals in Radiant Sun color palette. I don't know much about lore, however, but I really like how they look. So their models are generally pretty simple, however a good paint job just makes them look so good. So I have very little knowledge about the actual lore of Stormcast Eternals and Age of Sigmar in general, but I am starting to read some of the books. Currently I'm reading Prince of Mesa, The Black Talon, and Yndrasta. However, I am not here to rant about lore, unlike somebody we know. Maybe somebody named Jared, perchance.
Iron Warriors Army.
So let's get to painting. First off, I start the model off with a coat of Leadbelcher primer. After that, I go ahead and coat most of the model in Nuln Oil. Don't worry about the plume on the head or shield, since it'll be painted in a different color later. If by chance your Nuln Oil starts to pool excessively, I recommend using a brush that's dry to soak up the excess if need be. Now, I start off with painting the green sections with Calibite green. The only green areas we have will be the shoulder plate, the plume on the head, and the main middle section of the shield. This should take about 2 layers of paint to get an opaque finish. Next up, I use a 1:3 ratio of Achelian green and water to make sure I get a very light wash over the Calibite. I like to make sure the wash also gets into those deep crevices in the shield. Then, with Vallejo Jade, I like to paint the top inner corners as well as the edge of the shoulder plate. I then make sure to paint the top half of the shield, making sure that the farther down I go, the less opaque the paint is to get a nice transition. If need be, you can also glaze over the jade green with Calibite to get a cleaner transition. Lastly, I like to dry brush the plume so I can easily catch the fibers of the hair. Next up, with some watered down mood green, I go ahead and make the little highlights on the top of the jade green. Make sure on the shield you just add it close to the top so it doesn't overpower the jade. Then do a lighter dry brush onto the plume. Next up, with Vallejo white, but you can use any white, go ahead and paint the shield design, making sure you don't accidentally touch the green you just finished with. If by chance you get a small flick of white on the green, I use a clean wet brush as soon as possible to wash it off while the paint is still wet, and it's worked so far. Now with Retributor Gold, I begin painting all the gold armor details starting off with the shield. Then with Gilman Flesh, I paint over all the gold. Next with Corn, I paint the spear's handle and the sword's sheath and handle. After that, you just use Rakelin and paint over all those corn pieces. Now with Ushapti, I paint the parchment onto the spear and then the parchment detail on the shield. After that, I go ahead and use the watered down Dark Oath Flesh to paint over the parchment. I recommend pulling it onto the letters, but having very little go onto the flat surfaces in order to stay light. Then with Jade, I paint all the gems on the forehead, sword, and spear. Next up with Rhinox Hide, I paint the belt and the straps that connect the sword. Lastly, with Black Legion, I paint the boots and back of their knees. After all that, your Radiant Sun Stormcast is done. And just like that, you know how to paint the best type of Stormcast Eternal. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for future tutorials and other projects we'll be doing later on as well. And as always, see you in another realm.